Okay. Hello, this is Christina Alisa with my 4-part video series, How to Create a Better Relationship with Your Teen. This is a 4-part series, but today is part 2, Turning Anger into Positive Interactions. So welcome back. Those of you who listened to part 1, or maybe there's new people here. And I want to thank you for taking the time to invest in yourself and in your teen. It's really good to show up, isn't it? So let's review quickly what we talked about last time on the first part, which was learn proven solutions for lasting change with your teen. I talked about solutions to create a good relationship with your teen by using what I call the 5 steps to building a foundation. This was a foundation that's different from the foundation that you build with your child. It's just a new way of being. We also talked about being able to catch yourself when your teen pushes your buttons or they challenge your authority or your rules or expectations. And we also talked about a case study where I talked about active listening, which is also called reflective or effective listening, the you feel because model that really helps families to get closer and to listen to one another. So let's move on now to part 2, turning anger into positive interactions. So do you find yourself on your last nerve and all you want to do is scream at your teen? You may look like this woman. I know there's times I felt it myself when my daughter was a teen. It's like you just want to tear your hair out. Or is their attitude just driving you up the wall? When your teen explodes with anger, do you fight back? In other words, what's going on with you and your teen's anger? Because as we know, there's so many kinds of anger. There's irritability, there's fury, there's mad, aggression, even manipulation. So ill temper, tantrums, a lot of big emotions. And here's the teen just expressing it. Because sometimes teens feel more control than when they're angry. And they don't want to feel the other feelings, which are helpless or hurt or misunderstood or left out. So anger is a way for them to just let off a lot of their hostility. But in this webinar, you're here, I believe, because you really want your teen to communicate in a healthy way, not with yelling and screaming and throwing things or giving you attitude. And you want them to react what I call non-impulsively, not like just gut reaction right away. You want them to be able to think through things and to not react violently either. You don't want them slamming doors or destroying things or just using their anger against other people. And you want them to have control of themselves because when teens are angry, it looks like they're way out of control. And of course, you want them to be happy. So if these are the things that you want, then you're in the right place because these are the things we're going to talk about to get you in a place so there is a better relationship with your teen, where there's more love, less stress, or more expression of love, or the way teens can handle love, which is, of course, different from when they were young. You can't just give them a hug and kisses all the time now, but you can express your love in lots of different ways. And of course, you want to have more balance and peace of mind. Who doesn't? You know that these years are difficult, so you want to be able to get as much balance and peace of mind as you can. And I'm here to give support. That's what this part 2 is about, and the whole series is to tell you that, yeah, it's tough to raise a teen. It's not easy. And that you're not alone, that so many people have struggled with the same things, and that there are tools and things that can make it a little easier for you, because you do want a healthy relationship with your teen. Because the healthier relationship is, that means that you're communicating, you're making contact, you're listening to them, they're listening to you, and that there's not a wall between you, or so many difficulties that you get so frustrated. So I'm going to talk about some action steps now. These are things that you're going to be able to do that is going to help teens with their anger. So what I invite you to do right now is to grab a pen and paper and write down some things that you might find really click for you as I talk about these different steps. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to having a little technical problem here because I'm moving to a different PowerPoint. And so sometimes it takes a few minutes just to kind of load it up. So thank you for kind of hanging in there with me. And great, thanks. All right, now how many of you have taken a road trip? Okay, most of us have. And you know that there's a lot of things you have to deal with on the road when you're going on a trip. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is, okay, just give me a minute here and let's see if we can get this taken care of. Great, thanks. All right, this is my second webinar, so I'm a little rusty on knowing how to handle all these different technical things. So action steps. As you go on a road trip, one of the first things that you do is you're on the lookout. You know, you got to keep your eyes on the road and notice the signs. So as there's signs on the road, there's also signs with your teens. So, you know, sometimes it's very obvious when your teen is angry because they are stomping around the house, or they're slamming doors, or they're yelling. But sometimes the signs are a little different for anger. And those are just as important. For instance, they might have a mood swing. It seems like they're really in a good mood, and then all of a sudden now they're in a bad mood and they're grumpy, or the next day. Or you see their facial expressions have changed. And you notice the mood has changed. Remember, we talked about moods do change with teens naturally. That's part of their growing process. But when they're angry, we really want to pay attention. Okay, so if you see a facial expression, or maybe their body language that just really, you know, shows a different mood, like maybe they're slumped, maybe their head's down. Sometimes they can even have a confused face, and that seems kind of strange, I know, but something may be bothering them and they don't know how to figure it out. So they look kind of confused or kind of stuck or not really knowing what to do. And this is where you come in, is to notice the signs. First of all, watch your teen. Be involved with your teen. I think I mentioned before that when my daughter was in preschool, her preschool teacher was talking to all of us parents at a meeting, and we were all talking about all our worries about our little kids and all this and that and being safe and all the things they were going through in preschool. And she turned to us and she said, "This is nothing compared to teenage years. They're going to need you more as a teenager, then they need you now. And that really woke me up, because it's true. They need you. Even though they push you away, they need you. So the next thing on the road is to put your pedal to the metal. You got to go now. And that means initiate. Initiate conversations with your teens. And you do that by really starting to talk to them about what's going on. So you've noticed something going on, right? And you've noticed some body language. So you say to them, what's made you upset today? I can tell something's happened. Now the teen may respond to you and they may not. They may go, oh, nothing, or leave me alone. But don't let that get to you. Okay, that's just a natural thing they do. Part of their job. And another thing you might say to them is, you're angry and hurt that the coach did not pick you for the team. Now, remember what I talked about earlier is that sometimes you guess what's going on with them. And even if you say to them, ooh, you're angry today. Now, they may not like to hear that. They don't like that reflected to them. So they might say, no, I'm not angry. Leave me alone. But the point is, it's important to say it anyway. You don't say it in an accusing way. You say it in a calm way. Because if there's something that made them angry or hurt, then let's just say it was that the coach didn't pick them for the team. And maybe you kind of knew ahead of time that they were tryouts, so that you knew when their team came home angry, something didn't come out right. So you can say it really meant a lot to you, and you feel that it's unfair that you didn't get picked. So what you're doing is you're acknowledging that they have some feelings, and you're not ignoring them. You're initiating the conversation, even if they don't want to talk about it. And as you continue to initiate these conversations, you are opening up avenues, these avenues of a line where your teen feels that you care and that you want to know. So another example of something you could say to them is, especially if kind of they blew you off, you know, and they said, whatever, or so, or nothing's wrong. You can say, well, when you ignored me earlier, it just felt like you were shutting me out. That didn't feel so good. But is there something you're not telling me? You know, I'm here. I want to know what's going on. I love you. And I'm not going to tell anybody else if you don't want me to share it with anybody. It's important for teens to know that they're safe with what they have to tell you. They may not want anybody, even in the family, knowing what's going on right away. So that's an important part of initiating these conversations, is that you really want to assure them that what they share stays between the two of you. Or another way to initiate would be to say, I want to get back to what we were talking about. Can we start again? So in other words, you would be getting back to them, maybe later that day. Or another example is, I felt you were ignoring me earlier and I got frustrated trying to get you to listen to me. If we can start again, I'd like to listen to what you have to say as well. Because this happens a lot, doesn't it? Your teen ignores you, they don't listen to you, maybe you even ask them to do something, and you find yourself getting frustrated. So just acknowledge that and say, yeah, I was kind of frustrated and I want to get back to listening to you. So in other words, what you're doing is you're kind of getting yourself up, dusting yourself off, and starting all over again, okay? There's no one right way to do this. These are some examples of how to get that conversation going again. And if you haven't done this for a while, give yourself a break. You know, you're learning something new by listening today, and just being on this call means a lot. It means you want to try something. Now, when you're on the road and with your teen, release the brake. And what I mean by that is let them vent their feelings. So what does venting mean? Venting means let them spew out all their feelings. Now, that might not be very fun to be on the other end of that, because they may be saying some things that aren't very nice or kind of hurtful or things you don't agree with. But if you can just stay there as, just being there and consistently addressing these situations and not avoiding the anger issues, you give them a chance to really be heard. And you don't really have to say too much. You just kind of follow them and listen. And the point of this is to get all that anger out of them, because it builds up. It builds up with all the daily stresses that they experience. And if they hold those in, then they're going to act out. They might get in trouble. And if you let them vent, what you're doing is you're taking the pressure off, like those old-fashioned pressure cookers we used to have. You're just taking that pressure off. And the reason that they often don't talk about their feelings and their anger is that they're trying to defend themselves. It's called a defense mechanism, because they don't want to talk about these things that are hurtful, or how something happened where a friend isn't their friend anymore, or a girlfriend, told them something that really hurt their feelings. So these are difficult situations, and they don't want to talk about it, but they need to. So as you allow them to release and vent their feelings, try to set aside your reactions. You're going to have your reactions. You're going to have your own feelings. Of course, you're a human being. But if you can just listen to them. I have a couple examples that are kind of funny. One is actually a friend of mine who was telling me the other day that she was listening to her adult son, who was acting very much like a teenager. I don't know if you've ever experienced an adult that kind of acts like a teen, but he was just venting and venting to her and kind of unloading a lot of things and angry at her. And she just sat and listened to him for a pretty long time, just with, oh, I didn't know you felt that way. And, oh, I see. And that must have been hard, whatever she said, to know that she was there for him. And at the end of a period of time, he turned to her and he said, Mom, wow, how'd you get so smart? So it's kind of funny how when you let somebody really vent their feelings, they don't hang on to things and they can actually start to think clear. And also another part of letting them vent is that you don't really want to jump in and problem solve a situation for them right away. That's kind of an instinctful feeling that you have when your child is a child. You want to go, oh, let's go fix this. But when your child is a teen, they're really wanting to fix a lot of their own problems, and they need to. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't still need your guidance, but if you jump in right away with the solution, it doesn't give them a chance to really vent what they were really feeling. Because if they can get those feelings out, it has an amazing way of kind of getting to them to the point of thinking. It's like if you can get the emotions out of the way, the brain can turn on and they can problem solve their situations themselves. So anger is not the only feeling. There could be sadness, hurt, all kinds of things. I know a friend of mine would pick up her daughter after high school, and it seemed like every day was a new drama. Some friend she was angry at, some teacher that was unfair. So every day she didn't know exactly what she was going to get when she picked her up in the car. But these were important times for her to listen to her daughter. Okay, so now on the road, Remember, don't take the wrong turn. There's so many chances to take the wrong turn when you're trying to learn how to help your teen with their anger. So when they do things like shrug their shoulders or say, I don't care, or whatever, avoid sidetracking yourself. In other words, avoid going along with them and saying, oh, well, I guess they don't care, so I'm not going to care. Or don't get caught in the manipulation trap that they're really trying to blow you off and not really listen to you. And that's a manipulation by all these shrugging and whatevers. They just want you to let it go. But don't go on that side of the road. Step back, don't react, take another look, and go back and talk to them. And you might say things like, okay, you said that you don't care about this, but I care. And I want to know what's going on in your world. Enough. I don't need to know every single thing, but when you're angry, I know there's something going on I need to hear. I want to hear. And give them a choice. You can say, we can talk right now, or we can talk after dinner. Or do you want to talk with your dad and I, or do you want to talk just to me? But you're only giving them choices that you're okay with. In other words, and only two. Don't give them a lot of choices. That's too confusing. But you're going to hold them to it. Okay. And then remember, in all relationships, there's responsibility. Even a teen has a responsibility to be part of a family, to communicate, to step up, and to be in a relationship. Because what you're teaching them by going through these action steps with me is how they can be better in their relationships. And that's what you want. You want them to succeed. Okay, so on the road, sometimes we need to reroute, take another route. And this is what I call providing outlets. When teens have a lot of anger and communicating is difficult, I really suggest to the parents that come in and bring their teens in for therapy that they explore some other extracurricular activities. Maybe it's a sport, maybe it's an art, maybe it's a hobby, whatever it is, because they kind of need something else to just blow off that steam or to redirect them. I had a boy in therapy a teenager who's very angry because his dad was an alcoholic and there really wasn't anything he could do about it. His dad wasn't going to stop. And he was a very sensitive boy. He was more of an introvert. So it was kind of hard to tell that he was angry because he kind of turned it into depression. And he would just be very sad. But he was angry at his dad. It was hard for him. And one day we were talking about one of his interests, which is origami. And he was great at it. He did these incredible sculptures. And I said, well, there's a company in Japan, an engineering company, that actually uses origami in their engineering. You might want to watch that program. So he watched it and he was so excited. And he ended up getting an Instagram account. His mother said it was okay. And he posted pictures of his origami creations. And he had all these followers. He just lit up. He was so excited. It gave him something else that was about him, not about the things that were causing his anger. And this rerouting can be a very physical thing too. I find that, oftentimes the boys that I work with in therapy, they really need a physical outlet. A lot of times I suggest a punching bag. I had one boy who just absolutely ripped into that punching bag every time he could think of it. And also self-defense classes are great because not only do they give a physical outlet, but there's some structure and discipline, and they learn skills about life. So kids today do need something else beyond just the conversations. And there are dangers on this road trip that you're on with your teen. We can't ignore it. We can't ignore that the teens are going to be maybe wanting to be sexual, having a relationship, they call it. Well, we know that there's drugs at school. We know that social media is kind of an impulsive, crazy drama place that they can get caught into that really actually makes kids usually feel worse about themselves. There's the challenge of driving. Now they're driving and they are actually on the road and they're texting. So there's all these challenges. I mean, it's just amazing. I have a girl in therapy that there were kids on a campus selling prescription drugs. She bought some, and of course she got in huge trouble, and we took it from there. But these are all the things to be aware of, because if the teens are not really feeling confident in themselves, they're very affected by these influences. And use your mirrors. I think what I mean by this is mirror back their feelings, their emotions, their thoughts without judgment. The more you mirror, that means you're acting like a mirror or a reflection of them. I know that maybe sound kind of strange, but they often can't see themselves. They see kind of a distorted view of themselves. And I don't mean so much like telling a girl, oh, you're so beautiful, I don't know why you think you're ugly. I'm not saying things like that. I'm saying mirror what they feel. You know, you feel you can't measure up to the other girls because you feel they're prettier than you are. Now that might seem like a difficult thing to say to your teen, but that's what they're feeling, that's what they're thinking. And if you get into their world and mirror it, they may open up to you and say, yeah, you know, I just don't even want to eat anymore. And then you go, oh, okay, well, maybe this is a serious thing we need to take care of. Maybe we need to search out some therapy for this. So congratulations, you've arrived at the destination on this road trip. And give yourself a pat on the back for listening this far to this webinar. Because the point of this is to give you positive interactions for a happy family, for positive communications, and a positive outcome. And what I'd like to tell you a little bit about now, as we start to finish up this webinar, is a few more things to help you understand teens. And that is to learn more about the roots of anger. I've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to just give you a little bit more information that will help you understand them. So why do they get angry? Sometimes it's their relationships. A friendship broke up. Maybe it's a girlfriend, boyfriend, and they're on and off. They're irritated with each other. Somebody cheated on somebody, or it's their peer relationships and they don't feel like they have friends. Okay, this can all cause anger and frustration in teens. Also, we talked about the influences. There's things that even in school, there's bullying, and then we know there's cyberbullying. And these things, if the teen is not talking to you about it, then they're going to create anger, they're going to create hurt, and all kinds of feelings. And it's important to stay on top of it. I know it seems like teens want to protect you, or they protect themselves. They want you to not know what's going on. But, you know, we hear in the news so much now about kids that were bullied and they weren't telling anybody about it. So I really hope that you spread the word. It's so important to really find out what's going on with your teen so you can help them or get somebody else to help them. School counselors, therapists, friends, groups. And there's also environment that can cause problems. Things like, teens having difficulty developing relationships with each other. Remember, this is a time when they're really struggling with that. So there'll be a friendship that's on again, off again. And if they can talk to you in a way that's really healthy, where they talk about their feelings, they make a better friend. I can't tell you how much of a better friend than they make, because most teens want a friend that will listen to them. And if you can help your teen by listening to them, they're going to learn how to listen to their friends. But there might be other issues that are causing anger in your teen, such as something going on in the family. We all don't have perfect families. There is always something. And maybe it's a single parent and one of the parents has abandoned the teen. They're not around. Or there's a divorce and they're back and forth from one parent to the other. And it really throws them off a lot. Or a death in the family, all kinds of traumatic experiences can also create anger because the teen feels powerless to be able to do anything about it. They don't have a say. They can't say, oh, don't divorce my mom, or dad, don't leave, or grandpa, don't die. I mean, this, of course, is life, but they're left with their feelings, and these can create anger. Also, avoiding things. When they avoid how they feel, like let's say if they have low self-esteem, but they're avoiding it, they keep pushing it down and pushing it down. And they don't want to be what I call weak or vulnerable. I've had teenagers come into therapy and they say, well, I don't want to talk about these feelings. It makes me feel, weak. And I think that's part of our society too, that we think that if you really talk about how you feel, somebody's going to judge you and that you're going to be less of a person. So avoiding is only going to make the problem worse. I want to talk here close to the end now about a boy that I saw in therapy who I think he was 15 when he came to me. He was very angry. He was ADHD. He would punch the walls. He would fight with his stepfather. He was dyslexic. He was in a special private school. His parents were doing everything they could to support him and help him, but he was really in need of help. So we started working together, he and I, and we worked with some of his feelings about his biological father, who was no longer in his life, and some of the struggles his mother had. And then he ended up taking a lot of his anger out on his stepdad. So they were always in a tug of war. So I dealt with that abandonment and helping the boy see that his stepfather wasn't the problem. And we found that when he joined a wrestling team, he really did so much better because, again, that was a way to get some of his anger out and to really feel like he was accomplishing something, because school was not really where he felt his success. And he ended up being a top wrestler. They won a lot of tournaments, and he seemed to really calm down. And this was because his parents really paid attention to what was going on in him. So Now I want to just start to finish up here with this one. Okay. Just a few last remarks about some new possibilities. I hope that you feel like some new possibilities have opened up for you for changing the dialogue with your teen and creating what I call a new mindset. The mindset meaning to be there for your teen, which has going to have so much more impact on your teen than trying to just get through to them by engaging in a power struggle or lecturing them. I mean, if we just keep talking at them, they're going to push us away. Or you feel like you want to give up on your teen. I hope that you can see that it's really important not to give up on them and to keep redirecting the conversations. Just give yourself a pat on the back every time you do it. And what you'll find is that your teen will be learning to respect and care for you because they see and feel all the care you're giving. And notice how you're feeling too. And think about some of the questions that we talked about earlier. I hope they helped you. And you've made it. You've made it to the end of this webinar. It has now come to the end. Congratulations. And I hope that these possibilities that I've been describing here have been valuable. But there's more. I'm excited today to give you more value in my free offer. And my free offer is a complimentary Harmonious Family Discovery session. And what is that? It's a 1-hour session personally with me. We can do it on the phone, on Skype, on this Zoom meeting like we're doing here, or in person, one-on-one. And I will be able to give you specific help for your unique situation. Just imagine being able to go into your teen's room and he welcomes you with a smile. Those are the kinds of things that we're going to go into in this hour, being able to get those smiles. And I'm going to give you specific guidelines, steps on how to react with your teen. Just imagine having comfortable conversations with your teen right at the dinner table. I'm going to be exploring your personal unique situation. So as you have been maybe making some notes today, you might have been writing down some questions that you have for me. And it's going to be geared towards your specific needs. When you register for the discovery session, what you will do is once you've completed this webinar, just email me at chris@christinealisa.com to set up the discovery session. And I also will be sending you a recording of this so that you can listen to it again. And I'm also going to be sending some tips on communicating with your teens. And that's not all. There's another bonus. And it's a quick tip. Find some quality time with your teen, just 15 minutes a day. And if you can only make it 15 minutes a week, do that. Where you just have fun, just have a good time, go do something real easy. And just mainly to be there, a listening ear. Also, I have an extra bonus. More, right? It's good. So if you listen to the end of this 4-part series, then I'm going to send you a how to practice self-care by communicating with your teenager. And in there, there's a guided meditation that's really helpful to listen to right before you have some kind of interchange with your teen. So stay tuned for the next webinar, which is going to be part 3, setting limits that set you free. And this is about having a good relationship with your teen, better than fighting, and you can't live with ignoring your teen. And many people ask me how to get my teen to listen and how I can get my teenager to talk to me. So these are more important skills that you're going to be learning. You're going to find limits that are negotiable and limits that are non-negotiable, and how to stay consistent with them, because setting limits with teens is different than setting limits with your child. So thank you for being on the call today, and have a wonderful day.